Yo, what up, everybody? It's your boy CB, and it is time for that Wu-Tang American Saga spoiler review. Now, this is WETF, and if you've been watching the spoiler reviews we do here, you know I don't hold nothing back, alright? I'm a Wu-Tang fan. I'm a Wu-Tang nut, alright? It's episode 7, so let's get into it. Alright, so the way this episode starts off, we got your man Mook. If y'all don't remember who Mook is, now first of all, Mook is played by the cat that played Marlowe's Muscle in The Wire. And if you didn't watch the episode where Power ran into Mook on the bus, you might not know, but Mook was a kingpin, you know what I'm saying, back in the day. Power ran into him, you know, just happened to run into him driving a bus. And that's one of the things that influenced Power to get involved with the Wu-Tang as the story's going in the show, because Mook was the one that told Power, you can't be out here in the streets forever, alright? Because Mook was the man, but then he driving the bus saying, you know, this is more solid than that. And so to see Mook helping out the clan, you know, in this episode, that was something to see. And what they showed was, the first thing that they showed actually was the records getting pressed up at the plant. And all right, so let me explain this process just for those that don't really know how a record is made. Now, if you saw the episode, which you should have if you're watching this review, because this is a spoiler review, but if you didn't watch the episode by chance, this is what went down. They showed them at the record plant, at the record pressing factory, and they showed what's called a glass master. Now, what a glass master is, that is produced from the master recordings of whatever songs or album that you looking to duplicate. And they take that glass master and then they put that in the machine, and then that presses out the actual vinyl records that get mass produced. Because when you put that glass master in, it make each record exactly the same, right? It's a press. The vinyl is melt, you know, they can heat that vinyl up to make that record, but that glass, you know what I'm saying, it don't melt at the same temperature as the vinyl do, so the glass stays solid and press the records. Anyway, but that's how they started off this episode. And when they showed the record finally getting pressed up and put in the boxes, that's where Mook came in, because Mook got a box of records and tapes, and he goes in the store, the record store, to try to sell the owner copies of the Wu-Tang single Protect Your Neck. Now, this is what makes this part interesting, because he's telling the man this is the hot music on the street, right? He's selling the man on the idea of getting this record in this store. And he actually has the guy play the tape. And as he's playing the tape, guess who's in the store? But Raekwon and Ghostface Killer. And they walking up to him like, oh, that's that shit. That's that shit I've been hearing about. That Wu-Tang shit. So it was obviously planned that they was going to be in the store already when Mook came in, and that when he played the tape, they was going to act like it was the best thing they ever heard, which it probably was, because it's their shit. If you making a record and you hear that shit, you love that shit, because why else would you make it, right? Anyway, the hustle worked. Since they got to the point where they was about to fight over buying the record for Mook. Mook was like, hey man, let me take it outside, because my man don't want to, you know, he don't want to deal with me. And that's what changed his mind. He ended up buying all the records, the whole box off of them, told him when they get some more to bring them some more. So that worked out pretty good for him. Powell was outside. He was happy about it. And of course, he gave them the money to buy the records off the guy. When they came out, he said, "Where my change at?" So that was the dope way to start the show off. This whole episode is all about how different members of the clan got their hustle on to make, you know what I'm saying, to make the single pop. And in true fashion of an actual TV show, everything moves slow. And I know some people kind of upset at the pacing of the show, but I'm explaining in this review why it is good that they're pacing it that way. It's for one, it's going to ensure more episodes and more seasons to come, which is the point of making a TV show to begin with. But it's also in the way that they telling the story, and I'm going to get into that a little bit later. Also, the way that I'm going to do this review is a little different because they had like 3 main stories going on, and instead of bouncing around like the episode did, I'm going to just go straight through and explain each part of the story, you know, one after the other. And I think that's going to give it a little bit easier. It's making it a little bit easier to understand because I'm going to be explaining a lot. Now, Ghost came to the apartment, you know, where they home studios at, and Divine, RZA, Jizza, and ODB in the apartment. Jizza's showing ODB some card games. Divine is, you know, he going through the boxes of records, but RZA working on this beat. And it sounded like the beat for Mr. Your Chest Box. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. And Divine is like, he focused on what they plan is. He focused on what they trying to do for the day. Meanwhile, RZA kind of focused on this beat, and he trying to tell him, yo, we got to hit the Atlantic City. It's taking us a couple of hours to get over there, so I need you to, you know, come on with the come on. And meanwhile, you know, Jizza, he bouncing, because he said he got something to do. ODB said he going to the college stations. You know, they supposed to hit the college station because somebody that meth know. And, you know, that's when Ghostface walk in and Divine tell him, you know, hey, I know y'all been hitting the record stores, but I got something else for you to do. He tell Power, y'all gonna be a man short. They hit the door with some more records to go to some more record stores. So Power, Raekwon, and Mook, they gone. And Divine tell Ghost what he need him to do. He hand him this magazine, and he tell him like, yo, these radio stations in the back of this magazine, that's what I need you to do. I need you to call these radio stations up and see if they'll play our record. And Ghost is like, man, this is some bullshit on how come I gotta sit up in this crib all day? Y'all all leaving, you know. He kind of feel like he getting done dirty. But, you know, somebody got to do it. And Divine convinced him to do it. Meanwhile, him and RZA leave. And he kind of stuck there. So he starts, you know, making the calls. And, of course, he called the radio stations out the blue, telling them about some Wu-Tang Clan record. They had no idea what he's talking about. So he's having a hard time. And it's about this time Raekwon come back. And he asked him about going to the record stores. He said, yeah, we hit a few record stores. It's all good. But Raekwon, you know, he kind of chilling. And he see what Ghost doing. And he give him some advice. He say, hey, man, you know, if you really want them to play the record, you got to make them feel like they need the record. You know? And so Ghost changed up his strategy. Instead of calling them and telling them, hey, I got this record for y'all to play, he started calling the stations and requesting the record. You know what I'm saying? And that's pretty smart. I don't know if they the ones that actually came up with doing that or not, but that's actually pretty smart to have, you know, even if it ain't you, have your people call it at the radio station. You know, that's one of the things about the music business that's a little different. If you had music out, you used to depend on it being played on the radio because that's the only way people could hear it. If they didn't buy your record, the only way they was going to hear your record is if it was in the club or if it was on the radio. And the radio, of course, going to reach way more people than the club. So you needed that radio play if you was expecting your record to pop. But they independent. They trying to make it happen on their own. They ain't got no label behind them. They didn't want no label behind them. They was trying to do it, you know what I'm saying, all on the up and up. And this is what it took. And so for them to have a little trick like that, for that day and time, that's the kind of thing it took. You know what I'm saying? And so they in there, they doing that. Raekwon pop in this movie. And you know, Ghost, he making his calls, but then he noticed this movie he watched. He like, what's this? And Raekwon like, you ain't never seen this shit? This is my shit. This that killer. And lo and behold, some of that Wu-Tang legend slip out into the episode. It's the killer tape. And Ghost ain't never seen it before. So Ray sitting there explaining to him what's going on in the movie. And it's one of those things, you know, Ray and Ghost, the whole up until now, they had this beef, you know what I'm saying? It kind of got squashed, but we saw up until that last episode when Ghost was trying to write his verse, he still had Raekwon on his mind, you know what I'm saying, kind of blocking the way. It was kind of, even Raekwon had, even when they was in the studio, Raekwon kind of had, you know, a little extra bravado on him when he had his verse ready and Ghost didn't. So it was kind of like this, it wasn't like overt, but it was, you know, it was like this thing going on. Now, even before that, but we do know that Raekwon the one that put together the crib for Ghost. You know what I'm saying? He was struggling putting the crib together. You know, Cherie was coming in, and Raekwon kind of helped them out. You know what I'm saying? Unexpectedly. So they kind of been building, you know what I'm saying, up. And now they did the record store, you know, they did the record store hustle together, and they really kind of fitted each other. As a matter of fact, when they came into the crib, you know, they was asking Jizza about some of the supreme mathematics that they had been debating about. If it's now cipher or non-cipher. It's actually both, you know, depending on what it is that you're trying to say. But that's another story. We'll get into that probably into another video. But the show, the two of them bonding over this movie, I think was a very important thing that they put in here. And this is what I was going to say about the timing or the pacing of the show, is that friendships, going from beef to a friendship, don't happen overnight. So it would be real unnatural for them to do like one episode where they got, you know, together and made a friendship, and then at the end of the episode they was best buds. Nah, you got to do that over a span of episodes, and that's what makes this show. I think this show is going to probably be talked about for a long time, not just because it's the Wu-Tang show, but because of the way that it's done. And you can't really see how it's going to end up until the end, but the way that it's going so far, everybody complaining about the pacing right now, but I think at the end of the day, it's going to be one of those shows that everybody want to look at. Kind of like The Wire. It's not on the same subject matter all the way because they in the music business, but it's one of those shows that will eventually be looked at like that because of the way that it's done. I think Riz is really, he's been around the Hollywood game for a minute, and he's working with somebody that know it even better than he do. And I think that's, you know, going to be an advantage at the end of the day. The show is really going to be much more than what it is right now. But to get back to the story, Ghost and Ray, they bonding over the killer tape. And then, you know, before Divine left, he told him that Cherie called him and said she needs some Pampers. So he remembered that. And he like, all right, I got to bounce and go to the store. And Ray is like, all right, well, why don't you bring me some shit back? And Ghost not feeling that. He's like, look, I ain't your little flunky. I ain't your little, you know, go get it guy. If you want something, you got to come with me. And so they bounce to the store together. And when they leave the store, Ray noticed the shoes that Ghost got on. He got on some dyed Clarks. And he telling, Ghost telling them, the whole thing about how he dipped them in blue and cream, and if you know anything about the Wu-Tang, once again, that's a classic, legendary skit from the albums. And then, so, after they leave the store, he tell Ray, like, hey, I gotta go by my mom's crib over in the projects. And Ray kind of hesitant at first. He like, I don't know, that's going over the Staple. I'm a Park Hill nigga. And Ghost, he tell him, like, look, man, just cool out. Everything cool. But when they get there, Ray not feeling real easy in the crib. First of all, both Ghost brothers in wheelchairs, and that ain't, something he used to. And then he see the bullet holes in the wall. And, them bullet holes that he put there. As far as the story goes, keep in mind. But them bullet holes that he put there. So he really feeling uneasy. But, Ghost feeding his brothers and everything. And they listening to the tape. And they feeling it. His brother, I think the brother that talk all the time, name is Daryl. Something like that. And he like, yeah, this dope. He's like, but your verse ain't the dopest one. He talks about how Ray's verse was dope. And he's talking about the lines. And Ray telling him thank you, and he feel a little bit easy. And then he asked him to sign the tape for him. And he was like, of course I'll sign the tape. So he signed the tape. And and Ghost noticed, how he interacted. And you could tell that they made that a moment where he's showing like, all right, this nigga is cool. He's a good, cool guy. And so they had that moment at his mom's crib. Ray wasn't feeling easy though. That's the real important part to put there, because he was not feeling easy being in that house. And so anyway, they go back to the crib. They show one part where Shuri is walking, over to the apartment where they all at, and she ran into the auntie that did the numbers game all messed up, and they had a moment, and that kind of led to another moment between Shuri and Ghost where, they talking about her, and Ghost reassuring her, like, she see what you got, and she probably feeling a little bad about her own life, how she got to bounce around and dip town and all that kind of stuff. So Ghost showing, he a real type cat. Meanwhile, Raekwon over there still struggling with the phone game, and Cherie noticed it, and she telling him like, yeah, you get more flies with honey than vinegar. He don't even know what she talking about. So she showing. She good on the phone. And she's sweet talking, not exactly sweet talking, but she doing girl talk with the radio people, trying to get them to play the song, right? And it's working out pretty good. It's working out so good. Now they got Cherie on the phone doing what Ghost was supposed to be doing. Meanwhile, they go back to watching the Killer tape. And now Ray explaining, the story a little bit more. And they really getting into this Killer tape. Ghost feeling it. And then so about this time, Cherie get tired of doing their work for him. She kind of bounce on him, and and then that's when Ray and Ghost come up with a plan. I'm gonna hold off on talking about what their plan was to the end, because that's like one of the pinnacles of the episode. Now, meanwhile, you got RZA and Divine. They at a music convention, right? And they trying to get the record distributed by somebody. They trying to find a distributor for their record. So it's like music stores out there. Now, for those of you that don't know, because it's a lot of y'all that probably don't know or remember, but there used to be a time when you had to go to a record shop to buy records. You had to go to the music store to buy CDs and tapes and records. And they had the mom and pop store like they showed at the beginning, but they also had the big chains. And that's who was being represented at this convention. They had some of the biggest chains like Warehouse Music and Tower Records And you know what I'm saying, one of the ones that RZA went to go holler at was Camelot Music. Now I'll get into that in a second because RZA ran into a couple of other people that he knew. He ran into the DJ that they did the interview with when they was on tour with Naughty by Nature. And he had the record, so the cat was like, yo, whatever you got, I'm playing it. You know what I'm saying? I know it's dope. And that was a good thing because I think it kind of encouraged him to keep pushing. But then he ran into the guy from Camelot Music. Now he also ran into somebody, the rep for Warehouse Music, who was, for lack of a better term, she was a dumpy looking white girl, right? He ignored her and went over to the black guy for Camelot Music. And when he talked to the guy from Camelot Music, he played the tape for him and everything, but the guy was like, you know what? I don't really know much about hip hop. All right. I just, you know what I'm saying? I told him I like hip hop to get this job, but I'm into this Euro tech. You know what I'm saying? Don't you know anything about so and so? And RZA like, nah. You know what I'm saying? He feel like he wasting his time now because dude looked the part, but he wasn't with it. So they milling around, and then Divine go talk to somebody at One Stop. Your boy Steve Rifkin, who they had met, you know what I'm saying, when Bobby was doing the Prince Rakeem thing, he was there pushing another group. I think the group he was pushing might have been the Alcoholics, because they was from the West Coast, and the Alcoholics was one of the first, you know what I'm saying, groups he signed to Loud. So I'm thinking that might have been who that was supposed to be. It was 3 of them. You know, I'm just guessing. But anyway, Divine go up and he's talking to the One Stop guy. Next, he introduced himself and he telling them about what they got going on. The dude played the tape. And you know, it's going good. He's like, yeah, I could probably push like 1,000 of these. And then Divine had it kind of messed up. Divine been doing a lot of studying, but in certain things he don't know. And that's what the guy told me. He's like, this is a one stop. We sell your shit, but it's on consignment. And Divine know exactly what the consignment is from the streets. And he not really feeling that because that ain't what they really had in mind. He not trying to wait on the money. He want the money up front because they done invested so much into making this happen so far. They ready for the payoff. And so they exchange cards, but Divine like, I'll hit you up and let you know. And so him and RZA talk, you know what I'm saying? They both feeling a little bit defeated, but Divine encouraging like, hey, we got it out of here. We came in and you talked to a radio DJ, he put you on a little bit. I talked to a guy that, you know what I'm saying, even though it's consignment, he putting us on a little bit. Hey, we doing the best we can. And as they leaving, somebody asking somebody named Violet for a ride to the Def Jam party. And that's when RZA's ears light up, like, Def Jam party, that's hip hop for sure. Who is he talking to? And of course, it's the dumpy white girl. And now he gotta go over there and make up to her because she's seen the way that he treated her earlier and she used to it. It reminded me, I know Violet Brown is, you know what I'm saying, she worked for Warehouse, but it also reminded me of Wendy Day. Now, if you know who Wendy Day is with Rap Coalition, you know Wendy Day, you know, she don't look like your typical hip hopper, but Wendy Day did so much for the game back then. Wendy Day was one of the people that you had to holler at if you was trying to make it in the game. So it's the same kind of thing. Hip hop eventually showed this in real time, but back in the day, you didn't know everybody that was a hip hop head because there was a lot of people that was hip hop heads that didn't look the part, but everybody looked for that stereotypical type look. You know what I'm saying? So that was a lesson in that. That was a lesson that they had to learn too. And so, you know, she said she had already heard the song when he played it for the other guy in Camelot. And, you know, he gave her the tape. Divine gave her a card, you know, and she told him, like, look, y'all get y'all spins up, we can make something happen. And so that's how that part ended. It was on a pretty good note. It wasn't the best note, but it was on a pretty good note. And so now I get to talk about ODB, Inspector Deck, You God, and Method Man going to the college. And this is a good part of the episode too because it showed the four of them bonding, and then it showed them in an environment where they wasn't really used to. One of the first things that happened when they get there, Meth had to connect at the radio station, but they was met at the door by a security guard. Now, this is the early '90s, so they from the projects. And when they walk up on the college campus, the security guard kind of look at them and say, yeah, y'all don't really belong here. If y'all ain't got no ID, y'all need to get out of here. And it was interesting because I remember some times similar things happening where you kind of show up, you got to do, you there for this one purpose, but you getting looked at like you strange, like you an alien or some shit. That's wild. But they they did what they had to do. They kind of scuffled a little bit with the security guard, but that wasn't what they came there for. So they just went away. Meanwhile, they lost ODB. He was off doing something else. And when they get back with him, he at the car selling the tapes. And they like, what you doing? He's like, oh, don't worry about it. He was selling weed with the tapes for $10. And people was buying it. And that's how a lot of cats got on back in the day. But they was on this college campus. ODB was doing this thing, talking to, different people. Got an invite to a frat party. And so when the other three told ODB that the radio interview didn't work out, he said, why don't we go to this party? And they go to the party. And they end up playing beer pong and, partying. The DJ, he tearing it up. And then all of a sudden, the DJ not tearing it up no more. And ODB has always been, Briz always talked about how ODB was one of the best beatboxers, and they would do this a lot. But they showed ODB beatboxing, and the other three was freestyling in the party, and everybody was loving it. So, of course, after they do that, they give the DJ the tape, he play the tape, everybody loving it. And now they got a DJ that actually worked for the station playing they shit on the radio. Boom, check. They did what they came to do, even though they didn't do it the way that they thought they was going to do it. It's one of those, that's again, this show is so much better when you sit back and relax and just let it happen. Because, especially these last two episodes, they really get into the intricacies of all the little things that it takes to get put on. And that's important. That's important for you to understand that, what it took. Because I watched Riz on Breakfast Club. He did a Breakfast Club interview Wednesday morning. And he was talking about, how it's changed. And how what they had to do back then is different than what cats do now. And how, now you can just make a song, upload it to SoundCloud, and everybody can hear it. But it was different then. You didn't have that ability, especially when they was trying to get on. So it's good that they had that. It's good that they showing that on this show, how that process works. So, like I said, we got Ray and Ghost. They've been making phone calls all day. RZA and Divine, they was at the convention all day. And then You God, Meth, ODB, and Deck, they was at the college all day and night. They sold some tapes, got radio play, all good. But let me tell you about the plan that Ghost and Ray came up with. Now, everybody knows, or you should know, about the legendary show in New York City, Stretch and Bobbito. Ray and Ghost's plan was to go to the offices of the radio station where Stretch and Bobbito record their show and bum rush the scene. Now, here's a cross reference. If you've never seen the Stretch and Bobbito documentary, you need to get on whatever streaming platform you buy your movies or rent your movies from and watch it, because they talk about this moment. But on the show, they dramatize this moment. And what movie was Ghost and Ray watching all day? The Killer. So what do they do when they go and bum rush the radio station? They show, well, first of all, they show these cats like on like a cartoon video game type scene going into the station. And then when they get to the final level, then these niggas is in the Killer. And I think that is one of the most appropriate ways to show them as being those two characters, because the way that Ray was explaining the movie, I ain't never seen the movie. I'll be real with you. I ain't never seen it. But he was explaining the movie about how these two cats didn't really like each other and became friends to complete a mission. And what's Ray and Ghost? They two guys that didn't really like each other, and now they coming together to complete a mission. Now, if you think about the way that the show is made, don't you think that may have been planned from the beginning? Hey, they all love these movies. They all modeled their career or they personas after these kung fu flicks and these action flicks that they would watch. Wouldn't it make sense they planned from the beginning to have them be like the two characters in The Killer? And now they get to do that ultimate scene and show the mission being complete. Oh, that is so well done from an artistic perspective. If you're not feeling that, I don't know what you might feel, but I was feeling that. And the dopest thing is, after they go through and they do the action scene, everybody's back. They loading up records into the van, and they gonna continue to do their thing. They happy that they getting the radio play that they getting at the college station. But then they listen to the Stretch Bobbito and Protect Your Neck come on. They show Stretch and Bobbito talking about how they gonna play the record, and then the record come on. But then on top of that, who hears the record but Steve Rifkin? He getting in the cab. He said, I need to go to the airport. I got to get to LA. As soon as he hear the song on the radio, he like, turn that up. And then he hit it. It's the Wu-Tang Clan. He tell the cab driver, you know what? Never mind. I'm staying. Because he about to be on the search for these cats. Because he been looking for them ever since he heard their first tape. So this is why you got to let the show do what it do. You got to let it happen in time. Be patient, my people. Be patient with the plan. Trust what they say. Trust the process. It's coming. We 7 episodes in. Probably got about 3 more to go. I am all the way the fuck in on Wu-Tang and American Saga. You know who it is. It's your boy CB. Hit me up at the Rude Educator on Twitter, at the Rude Educator on Instagram. Hit the comments, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, but most importantly, hit the play button on episode 8 next week. I'll holler at y'all then. Peace.